Lieutenant Commander Olivia Martinez floated gently in the zero gravity of the International Space Station. Her dark hair was tied back neatly as she worked on the communication array outside the station. The vastness of space surrounded her, stars glittering like diamonds against the infinite blackness. Earth hung below, a beautiful blue marble wrapped in swirling white clouds. "How's it going out there, Olivia?" asked the voice of Mission Control through her headset. "Almost done with the maintenance check," she replied, tightening the last bolt on the array panel. "Everything looks normal." That's when she heard it. At first, she thought it was interference in her communication system, just static and broken sounds. She tapped her headset thinking it might be malfunctioning. "Mission Control, are you sending additional signals?" "I'm picking up some interference." "Negative, Lieutenant Commander. Your channel should be clear." Olivia frowned and adjusted the frequency on her portable communication device. The static became clearer, forming into sounds that almost resembled words. She shouldn't be able to pick up random signals like this, especially not on her protected channel. "I need to investigate this signal," she told Mission Control. "It's unusual." Back inside the station, Olivia connected her device to the main communication system. Her fellow astronauts, Pete Nichols and Jamie Wright, gathered around as she worked to clean up the signal. "What exactly are we listening for?" Pete asked, his bushy eyebrows knitting together in confusion. "I'm not sure," Olivia admitted, "but there's definitely something there." When she finally cleared the static, the message came through. It wasn't in English. It wasn't in any human language any of them recognized, yet somehow they all understood it perfectly. "They are coming. Prepare. You have been marked." The three astronauts looked at each other, faces pale. "Play it again," Jamie whispered. Olivia did. The message remained the same. It repeated 3 times, then went silent. "We need to report this immediately," Pete said. Within hours, NASA headquarters was buzzing with activity. Dr. Alan Blackwood, head of NASA's Signal Intelligence Division, listened to the recording with deep skepticism written across his lined face. "Space plays tricks on the mind," he told Olivia during the video conference. "Isolation can cause auditory hallucinations. All 3 of you hearing the same thing could be a shared delusion from the stress of your mission." "With all due respect, sir," Olivia said firmly, "this was real. We recorded it. You're listening to it right now." Dr. Blackwood sighed and rubbed his balding head. "The recording contains sounds, yes, but the translation you're claiming, that's impossible. You're saying you heard it in an alien language but understood it in English?" "I know how it sounds," Olivia admitted. "But we all heard the same message." The conversation might have ended there if not for what happened next. Reports began flooding in from radio telescopes around the world, in China, Russia, Chile, South Africa, and Australia. All of them had picked up the same signal at exactly the same time. And each team, regardless of their native language, reported understanding the same message: "They are coming. Prepare. You have been marked." The world's governments tried to keep the information secret, but in the age of the internet, the news spread quickly. Within days, everyone knew. Earth had received a message from somewhere beyond the stars. And it wasn't friendly. President Laura Shepard addressed the nation from the Oval Office. "My fellow Americans and citizens of the world," she began, her voice steady despite the extraordinary circumstances. "Today I can confirm that we have received what appears to be a communication from an intelligence not of this Earth. We are working with scientists and military experts from around the globe to understand the nature of this message and any potential threats it may indicate." In the days that followed, experts from every field offered theories. Religious leaders spoke of Judgment Day. Military generals warned of possible invasion. Scientists debated whether it was a prank or a misinterpreted natural phenomenon. Then, the second message arrived. Olivia was back on Earth by then, having been rushed home on an emergency shuttle. She sat in a conference room at NASA headquarters when Dr. Blackwood burst through the doors. "We've received coordinates," he announced. To the room full of scientists and military personnel, the signal came with a specific location. "Where?" General Frank Rodriguez of the Air Force asked, standing up. The dark side of the moon. The room fell silent. Could be a trap, the general said finally. Could be our only chance to understand. What we're facing, Dr. Blackwood countered. President Shepard made the final decision. NASA would send a small team to the coordinates on the moon. They would discover what waited for them there and, hopefully, learn more about the warning Earth had received. The crew was selected carefully. Commander Sam Harris, a decorated Navy pilot with 3 previous lunar missions under his belt. Kate Foster, the youngest person ever to pilot a lunar module, and Greg Winters, a communications specialist who spoke 6 languages and had written groundbreaking papers on potential methods of alien communication. They named their mission vessel the USS Defiance, a small act of determination in the face of an unknown threat. Olivia watched from mission control as they prepared for launch. She had wanted to be on the mission, but her recent spacewalk and the stress of the past week made her a less than ideal candidate. Instead, she would guide them from Earth. Communications check, she said into her microphone. Reading you loud and clear, Greg Winters replied. All systems are go, Kate Foster added. Commander Harris's voice came last. We're ready for launch, mission control. The countdown began. 10, 9, 8. Around the world, people watched the launch on their screens. Some prayed, others prepared for the worst. No one knew what the crew would find on the dark side of the moon. 3, 2, 1. The rockets ignited, and the USS Defiance rose into the sky on a column of fire. Humanity's first deliberate journey to meet whatever intelligence had sent the warning had begun. Good luck, Olivia whispered, as the spacecraft disappeared from view. And Godspeed. The journey to the moon would take 3 days. 3 days for Earth to prepare, to wonder, to fear. 3 days before they would learn why they had been marked, and who was coming for them. In the vastness of space, something ancient and terrible was indeed moving toward Earth. The warning had come just in time. But whether it would be enough remained to be seen. The USS Defiance approached the dark side of the moon after 3 days of tense travel. Inside the spacecraft, Commander Sam Harris looked over the final approach calculations while Kate Foster prepared for the landing sequence. Greg Winters sat at the communications station, his fingers nervously tapping against the console. Entering lunar orbit, Kate announced, her voice steady despite the pressure. Beginning approach to the coordinates. The dark side of the moon had always been mysterious to humans. Hidden from Earth's view and silent to most communications, it made the perfect meeting place for a secret encounter. As they orbited closer to their destination, Greg adjusted the scanners. I'm picking up something unusual at the coordinates, he said, frowning at his screen. It doesn't match any known lunar formations. Sam moved to look over his shoulder. Can you get a visual? Greg switched to the external cameras. On the screen, the gray lunar surface came into view. At first, everything looked normal, just craters and dust. Then they saw it. What in the world is that? Kate whispered. In the middle of a small crater sat a structure shaped like a pyramid. It seemed to shimmer, as if it wasn't fully solid. The strangest part was how it absorbed light. The structure appeared darker than the shadows around it. It's definitely not natural, Sam said, and definitely not human. Mission Control's voice crackled through their communication system. USS Defiance, we're losing visual feed. What's happening up there? We've found something, Sam replied. A structure. At the coordinates, we're preparing to land and investigate. Proceed with extreme caution, came the response from Olivia Martinez back on Earth. Remember your training. First contact protocols are in effect. Kate guided the lunar module down with expert precision. Dust billowed around them as they touched, down roughly half a mile from the strange structure. The 3 astronauts suited up in silence, each lost in their own thoughts about what they might find. Weapons check, Sam ordered, breaking the silence. NASA had made the controversial decision to arm the crew with small laser cutters that could double as defensive weapons if needed. All set, Greg confirmed, securing his tool to his suit. Remember, Sam said, we're here to make contact and gather information. We defend ourselves only if absolutely necessary. They stepped onto the lunar surface one by one. The lack of atmosphere meant they moved in complete silence, their communications limited to the radios in their helmets. The structure looked even stranger up close. It seemed to shift slightly, like a mirage in a desert. It's like it's phasing in and out of reality, Kate observed, reaching out a gloved hand but stopping short of touching it. Greg walked slowly around the base of the pyramid. There appears to be an opening on this side, he called out. Like a doorway. Sam joined him. Sure enough, there was an entrance, a dark rectangle cut into the impossible material. Let's go in. Stay together. Lights on. The interior of the structure defied explanation. It was larger inside than it appeared from outside. The walls glowed with faint blue symbols that shifted and changed as they watched. The air was breathable according to their instruments, though none of them dared to remove their helmets. In the center of the single room lay a being. It wasn't human. That much was clear immediately. It had a slender body with skin that appeared almost translucent. 4 long arms ended in hands with 6 fingers each. Its head was elongated with large, almond-shaped eyes that were currently closed. It lay on what seemed to be a control panel of some kind, breathing shallowly. It's alive, Greg whispered in awe. At the sound of his voice, the creature's eyes opened. They were entirely black, with no visible pupils or whites, yet somehow they conveyed intelligence and, most surprisingly, relief. You came, the being said. No, not said. The words appeared in their minds without passing through their ears. I feared my message would be too late. The 3 humans stood frozen in shock. First contact with an alien intelligence was happening, and it was speaking to them telepathically. Who are you? Sam finally asked, finding his voice. I am Zorn, the being replied in their minds. Ambassador from the Lyran system. I am dying. My mission was to warn you. Warn us about what? Kate asked. The alien's body shuddered with what might have been a cough. The Celestial Dominion, an empire that spans thousands of worlds. They have marked Earth for processing. Processing? Greg asked, a chill running down his spine. Harvesting of all resources, including organic life. Zorn's thought voice grew weaker. My civilization suffered this fate centuries ago. I am part of the resistance. We try to warn planets before they arrive. Sam stepped closer. How much time do we have? 6 of your months before their fleet reaches your solar system. Maybe less. Zorn's body trembled again. I have brought you technology. Information that may help you survive. The alien raised one 6-fingered hand toward Greg. You, communication specialist. I sense your mind is adaptable. I can transfer the knowledge directly. It will be painful, but necessary. Greg looked at Sam, who nodded grimly. Do it, Greg said to the alien. Zorn placed his hand on Greg's helmet. Instantly, Greg collapsed to his knees, crying out in pain. Images, formulas, and concepts flooded his mind. Designs for advanced defensive systems, faster-than-light communication, technology, and glimpses of other worlds burning under the assault of the Dominion's forces. When it was over, Greg lay gasping on the ground. Zorn had fallen back, his breathing even more shallow than before. I have given you all I could, the alien whispered in their minds. My life energy fades. Take my body back to Earth as proof. Unite your world. Prepare. The Dominion has never faced your kind before. Perhaps you will be the ones to finally stand against them. With those words, Zorn's eyes closed. The blue symbols on the walls dimmed. Is he... Kate couldn't finish the question. Sam checked the alien's vital signs with their equipment. He's dead. Greg slowly stood up, his face pale inside his helmet. I saw them, he whispered. The Dominion. Their ships. Their weapons. And I know how to build defenses against them. Sam looked from Greg to the alien's body and back. Let's get him back to the ship. Earth needs to know what we're facing. As they carefully moved Zorn's body, the pyramid structure began to fade around them, becoming more transparent with each passing minute. By the time they reached the lunar module with their precious cargo, the structure had vanished completely, leaving no trace on the lunar surface. The USS Defiance began its journey back to Earth, carrying humanity's only warning and their first alien visitor. In Greg's mind, the terrible knowledge of what was coming burned like fire. They had 6 months to prepare for an enemy that had conquered countless worlds. The clock was ticking. News of the alien encounter spread across Earth like wildfire. Presidents, prime ministers, and world leaders gathered at the United Nations for an emergency meeting. For the first time in human history, all countries faced a common enemy that threatened their very existence. The body of Ambassador Zorn was taken to a secure facility in Geneva, Switzerland. Scientists from around the world examined it, confirming what the USS Defiance crew had reported. Zorn was definitely not from Earth. Greg Winters sat in a sterile white room, surrounded by military officers and scientists. His head pounded, with the worst headache of his life. The alien knowledge Zorn had transferred to him came in flashes, complex equations, strange technologies, and horrifying images of worlds being destroyed. I need something to draw with, Greg said weakly. I need to get this out of my head before I lose it. They gave him digital tablets and large whiteboards. For 3 days straight, Greg barely slept or ate. He drew designs for weapons, shields, and faster-than-light communication systems. The information poured out of him like water from a broken dam. Dr. Eliza Warren, a brilliant physicist from MIT, was brought in to make sense of Greg's drawings. She was a tall woman with curly red hair and intense green eyes. At first, she was skeptical. This violates everything we know about physics, she told the assembled military leaders while examining Greg's designs. But is it possible? Asked General Rodriguez. Eliza studied the equations again. Theoretically, yes. With enough resources, and if these formulas are correct, we could build these things. But it would take years. We have 6 months, Commander Sam Harris reminded her. He had been promoted to admiral after the moon mission, and now led the newly formed Earth Defense Initiative, EDI. Then we better get started, Eliza said. Around the world, factories were converted to build the new technology. Former enemies became allies in the face of extinction. Russian engineers worked alongside Americans. Chinese scientists collaborated with Europeans. For once, humanity stood united. Meanwhile, Olivia Martinez had returned to NASA's main facility. She worked with the world's best astronomers, scanning the skies for any sign of the approaching Dominion fleet. One night, while studying solar radiation patterns from the outer planets, she noticed something strange. There's an anomaly near Neptune, she told her team. The radiation readings don't match anything natural. Further investigation confirmed her fears. Small scout ships from the Dominion had already entered the solar system. They were mapping Earth's defenses and resources. The timeline had shifted. They didn't have 6 months anymore. The invasion could begin in weeks. Olivia immediately reported her findings to Admiral Harris. We need to accelerate everything, he said grimly after reviewing the data. And we need a new plan. We can't just sit here and wait for them to come to us. In a secret underground base beneath the Rocky Mountains, Greg Winters continued to work with Dr. Warren. The alien knowledge in his mind came with a terrible side effect. He experienced Zorn's memories in his dreams. Every night, he watched alien worlds burn under the Dominion's assault. He saw civilizations far more advanced than Earth's fallen days. They're connected somehow, Greg told Eliza during one of their late-night work sessions. The Dominion ships, they operate as a single entity. Like a hive mind? She asked. Greg nodded, wincing at the pain in his head. Yes, there's a central command ship that directs all others. If we could somehow disrupt that link. Eliza's eyes widened with realization. We might have a chance. Around the world, preparations intensified. Nuclear submarines were retrofitted with the new technology, converting them into space-worthy vessels. It was crude but effective. Missile silos were repurposed to house new defensive systems that could target ships in orbit. Every nation contributed what they could to the growing Earth fleet. Admiral Harris inspected the flagship of this new fleet, the ENS Defiance, named after the lunar mission vessel. It was originally a nuclear submarine, but now featured alien-inspired engines and weapons. "Will it fly?" he asked the chief engineer. "It'll fly," the engineer replied. Whether it can stand up to alien warships is another question entirely. In Geneva, the United Nations established a unified world government for the duration of the crisis. Old disputes were set aside. Resources were shared. For the first time, humans saw themselves not as citizens of different countries, but as Earthlings with a common fate. President Shepard addressed the world from the UN headquarters. "My fellow citizens of Earth, the road ahead will be difficult. We face an enemy unlike any we have known. But throughout our history, humanity has always risen to meet its greatest challenges. We are adaptable, we are resourceful, and most importantly, we are determined. The celestial dominion may have conquered 1,000 worlds, but they have never met humans before." The speech gave people hope. Across the globe, civilians did their part. People planted victory gardens to ensure food supplies. They volunteered for civil defense. Children wrote letters to the brave men and women preparing to defend Earth in space. 6 weeks after the return of the USS Defiance from the Moon, Earth's makeshift fleet was ready. 12 vessels, converted from submarines and aircraft carriers, waited in orbit. They were crewed by the best pilots, engineers, and soldiers from around the world. The plan was desperate but simple. Instead of waiting for the Dominion to reach Earth, they would take the fight to the enemy. Using Zorn's faster-than-light communication technology, they had detected the main Dominion fleet approaching Neptune. Admiral Harris proposed an ambush, using everything they had. In the final briefing before launch, Admiral Harris looked at the faces of his crew. They were scared but determined. Among them were Commander Kate Foster, now captain of her own ship, and Dr. Eliza Warren, who would operate the prototype weapon they had built based on Greg's knowledge. "We all know the odds," Harris told them. "But remember what we're fighting for. Every person on Earth, every child, every future generation. We may be outnumbered and outgunned, but we have something the Dominion doesn't understand, the human spirit. We don't surrender, we don't give up, and we don't go quietly." Greg Winters sat silently during the speech. The alien memories in his mind showed him exactly what they were facing. The Dominion had destroyed countless civilizations before. But something felt different this time. In all of Zorn's memories, no species had ever united and fought back the way humans were preparing to do. As Earth's fleet prepared to depart, millions watched from below. Prayers from every religion rose up. Families held each other close. Humanity faced its greatest test. The future of Earth now rested with 12 ships and their brave crews, heading out to meet an armada of world killers. Against impossible odds, humanity's first interstellar war was about to begin. Earth's 12 ships moved through the darkness of space toward the orbit of Jupiter. They traveled in silence, with all non-essential systems shut down to avoid detection. Admiral Harris stood on the bridge of the ENS Defiance, watching the giant gas planet grow larger on the view screen. "Status report," he said quietly. "All ships in formation," replied his first officer. "No sign that we've been detected yet." Dr. Eliza Warren worked in the science lab just off the bridge. The gravity weapon she had developed based on Greg's knowledge was their best hope. It could, in theory, create a localized distortion strong enough to tear apart enemy ships, but it had never been tested in actual combat. "How's our secret weapon coming along, Doctor?" Harris asked over the intercom. "Final calibrations complete," Eliza answered. "But Admiral, I have to warn you again, we only have enough power for one shot. After that, the system will need at least 6 hours to recharge. Let's make it count then." The plan was to hide in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. From there, they would launch a surprise attack when the Dominion fleet Arrived. Intelligence gathered from the alien knowledge in Greg's mind suggested the enemy would stop at Jupiter to harvest resources before proceeding to Earth. Greg Winters sat in his quarters, his hands pressed against his temples. The headaches were getting worse. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw flashes of Zorn's memories, worlds burning, civilizations falling. But he also saw something else now, weaknesses in the Dominion strategy. They never expected resistance. They were used to easy victories. Sudden alarm blared throughout the ship. Greg rushed to the bridge. "They're here," Admiral Harris announced grimly. On the main screen, space seemed to ripple and tear. Massive ships emerged from what looked like holes in reality itself. The Dominion fleet had arrived. Their vessels were smooth and black, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. They resembled giant obsidian arrowheads, perfectly streamlined, for space travel. "Count?" Harris asked. "Over 200 ships detected," the sensor officer reported, her voice shaking slightly. "The largest is, my God, it's nearly the size of Earth's moon." Greg stared at the screen. "That's the command ship," he said, the central node of their hive mind. They watched in horrified fascination as the Dominion fleet surrounded one of Jupiter's smaller moons. Beams of intense energy shot from multiple ships, cutting into the moon's surface. Within hours, the entire moon was being systematically disassembled. Its materials fed into the largest ship. Before their eyes, new Dominion vessels began to form. "They're converting the moon into more ships," Eliza whispered. "That's how they expand so quickly." Admiral Harris turned to his communications officer. "Send the signal to all ships. Prepare to attack." Earth's fleet moved silently through the asteroid belt, using the large rocks as cover. The element of surprise was their only advantage. Each captain knew exactly what to do. They had rehearsed this plan countless times during the journey from Earth. "Weapons hot," Harris ordered. "On my mark, fire." All 12 Earth ships fired simultaneously. Energy beams and missiles streaked across space toward the unsuspecting Dominion fleet. The first volley struck true, catching the alien armada completely by surprise. 6 Dominion ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. They didn't expect resistance, Greg said, watching the chaos unfold. Their shields weren't even up. For a brief moment, it seemed like Earth might have a chance. The Dominion ships scattered in confusion, unused to being attacked. Admiral Harris ordered a second volley, destroying 3 more enemy vessels. Then the command ship pulsed with dark energy. Instantly, all remaining Dominion ships moved into defensive formations. Their return fire was devastating. 2 Earth ships were destroyed in seconds. "Evasive maneuvers," Harris shouted, as the ENS Defiance rocked from a near miss. "All ships, continue the attack. Focus on their smaller vessels." The battle became chaotic. Earth ships darted between asteroids, using them as shields, while firing at any enemy ship that came into range. Kate Foster's ship, the ENS Courage, managed to destroy 3 Dominion vessels before taking heavy damage. "We can't keep this up," Harris's first officer warned. "They're coordinating too well now, and there are just too many of them." Harris knew he was right. The initial surprise had given them an edge. But now the Dominion's superior numbers and technology were turning the tide. 4 Earth ships were already destroyed and 3 more were heavily damaged. "Get us closer to the command ship," Harris ordered. "It's time to use our secret weapon." The ENS Defiance pushed forward, taking hit after hit as it approached the massive command vessel. Shield systems failed. Hull breaches were reported on multiple decks, but they kept going. "In range," Eliza reported from the science lab. "Gravity. Weapon charged and ready." "Fire," Harris commanded. A beam of distorted spacetime shot from the Defiance toward the command ship. When it hit, the effect was immediate and spectacular. A section of the massive vessel collapsed in on itself, creating what looked like a miniature black hole. The destruction spread across 1/3 of the command ship before the effect dissipated. Alarms blared across the Defiance as power systems failed throughout the ship. "Weapon discharge complete," Eliza reported. "All power cells drained. We won't be able to fire again." But the attack had clearly hurt the Dominion. The command ship listed to one side, its propulsion systems damaged. Smaller ships moved to protect it, forming a defensive wall. "Did we kill it?" Harris asked Greg. Greg shook his head. "Damaged, not destroyed. But we've done something no one has ever done before, and we've hurt them. We've shown they can bleed." With the command ship damaged, confusion spread through the Dominion fleet. Some ships continued to attack while others seemed to move aimlessly. The coordination that made them so deadly was temporarily disrupted. "All remaining ships, this is Admiral Harris. Fall back to Mars orbit. I repeat, fall back to Mars." The battered Earth fleet disengaged from the battle. Of the original 12 ships, only 5 remained operational, and all of them had sustained damage. As they retreated, the Dominion fleet did not immediately pursue, instead focusing on protecting and repairing their command ship. In the medical bay of the Defiance, Greg sat with his eyes closed, probing the alien knowledge in his mind. "There's something I missed," he told Eliza when she came to check on him. "The hive mind, it's not just a communication network. It's their weakness. If we could disrupt it completely, not just damage it, the entire fleet would be crippled," Eliza finished his thought. As Earth's surviving ships limped back toward Mars, humanity had achieved something remarkable. They had bloodied the nose of an empire that had never known defeat. But the cost had been severe, and the Dominion, though temporarily slowed, continued their advance toward Earth. The real battle was yet to come. Earth's remaining ships limped back to their home planet. The battle at Jupiter had been both a victory and a defeat. They had hurt the Dominion, but at great cost. Only 5 ships out of 12 had survived. The Defiance, once a proud vessel, now had hull breaches on multiple decks and failing life support systems. Admiral Harris gathered his remaining officers in the damaged bridge. "We hurt them, but they're still coming," he said. "Our scouts report the Dominion fleet is moving again. They'll reach Earth in 3 days." The mood was grim. Earth's best weapons had only slowed the enemy down. How could they possibly stop hundreds of alien ships with just 5 damaged vessels? Greg Winters stood up, his face pale but determined. "There's a way," he said. "I've been studying the alien memories in my mind. The Dominion has a weakness." Everyone turned to look at him. "When we damaged their command ship, their entire fleet became confused," Greg explained. "That's because they're connected through a hive mind. If we can completely disrupt that connection, not just damage it, we might be able to disable their entire fleet at once." Dr. Eliza Warren nodded slowly. "The technology we used for the gravity weapon, I think I can modify it to target their specific communication frequency instead of physical matter." "You'd need to get very close to the command ship," Admiral Harris pointed out. "Probably inside it would be a suicide mission." "I'll go," Greg said without hesitation. "The alien memories in my head make me the only one who can navigate their ship. I can find the central chamber where the hive mind is housed." Back on Earth, preparations for the final stand were underway. Cities were evacuated. People moved to underground shelters. Military forces from every nation stood ready to fight an enemy they barely understood. But deep down, everyone knew that if the space battle was lost, ground resistance would be futile. Olivia Martinez worked with what remained of NASA's team to coordinate Earth's defenses. When the battered fleet returned to orbit, she immediately requested to join the final mission. "I received the first warning," she told Admiral Harris. "I should see this through to the end." 2 days later, the Dominion fleet entered Earth orbit. Their massive ships darkened the skies over major cities. The command ship, still damaged but operational, took position over the Atlantic Ocean. Smaller vessels began atmospheric entry, heading toward population centers. Earth's defenses fired everything they had: missiles, energy weapons built with alien technology, even conventional artillery. Some Dominion ships were damaged or destroyed, but most continued their advance unhindered. In orbit, Admiral Harris gathered the volunteer team for the final mission. Greg Winters, Dr. Eliza Warren, Lieutenant Commander Olivia Martinez, and Harris himself would take the last functioning shuttle from the Defiance and attempt to board the Dominion command ship. "The plan is simple," Harris told them. "We use stealth technology from Zorn's designs to approach undetected. We dock with the command ship. Greg leads us to the central chamber. Dr. Warren sets up the device. Then we get out if we can. No one mentioned that getting out was unlikely. They all knew the odds. As they prepared to leave, Kate Foster approached them. Her ship, the Courage, was the least damaged of Earth's remaining vessels. "We'll create a distraction," she said. "Draw their fire away from your approach." The small shuttle launched from the Defiance and moved toward the massive command ship. Behind them, Kate Foster led the 4 remaining Earth vessels in a desperate attack against the Dominion fleet. The brave action drew enemy fire away from the shuttle, allowing it to approach the command ship undetected. "There," Greg pointed to a section of the enormous vessel. "That's a maintenance entry point. Their security will be minimal there." Using tools derived from Zorn's technology, they cut through the hull and entered the alien ship. The interior was strange, corridors that seemed to shift and change, lighting that pulsed with an eerie rhythm, and surfaces that felt almost organic. Greg led them through the labyrinth with confidence, following memories that weren't his own. Twice they encountered Dominion crew members, tall, insect-like beings with multiple limbs. Harris and Martinez used their weapons to clear the path. "We're close," Greg whispered, after they had traveled deep into the ship. "The central chamber is just ahead." The chamber they entered was enormous. In the center floated what looked like a giant brain, pulsing with dark energy. Thousands of cable-like tendrils connected it to the walls, ceiling, and floor. The brain was surrounded by a protective field that shimmered with purplish light. "That's it," Greg said in awe. "The hive mind consciousness, the core of the Dominion." Dr. Warren quickly set up her device, a modified version of the gravity weapon that would target the specific frequency used by the hive mind. "How long?" Harris asked as he and Martinez guarded the entrance. 5 minutes to calibrate, then another 2 for full power," Warren replied. Outside the chamber, alarms began to sound. The Dominion had discovered their presence. Harris and Martinez took defensive positions as alien crew members approached from multiple directions. "We'll hold them off," Harris told Warren. "Just get that device working." The battle at the entrance was fierce. Harris and Martinez fought bravely, but they were outnumbered. Harris took a severe wound to his side but continued firing. "Device. Ready?" Warren called out finally. At that moment, a group of Dominion soldiers broke through. One fired at Warren, striking her in the shoulder. The device slid across the floor, damaged but still operational. Greg made a split-second decision. He grabbed the device and ran toward the brain-like structure. Using Zorn's memories, he found a gap in the protective field and leaped through. "Greg, no!" Olivia screamed. But Greg wasn't listening. He placed the device directly against the pulsating brain and activated it. Then he did something unexpected. He placed his hands on the brain's surface and closed his eyes. Through his connection to Zorn's memories, Greg established a direct link with the hive mind. In that moment, the consciousness experienced something it had never encountered before: human emotion, the concept of individuality, the fierce determination to survive not as a collective, but as free beings. The alien mind couldn't comprehend these concepts. They were too foreign, too chaotic. The feedback created a cascade effect that amplified Warren's device beyond its intended power. Throughout Earth's skies, the Dominion fleet suddenly went dark. Ships stopped in midair. Some crashed. Others simply drifted aimlessly. The invasion halted as if someone had flipped a switch. Inside the command ship, Harris, Martinez, and Warren watched in amazement as the brain-like structure collapsed in on itself. Greg lay motionless beside it, his eyes open but unseeing. "Is he?" Martinez asked, rushing to his side. "He's alive," Warren confirmed after checking him. "But his mind is somewhere else." Days later, rescue teams from Earth reached the command ship. They found only Martinez and Warren alive. Harris had succumbed to his wounds, dying to protect them during their escape attempt. Greg was found in a coma-like state, his brain still, somehow connected to the remnants of the Dominion hive mind. In the months that followed, humanity began to rebuild. The Dominion threat was over, at least for now. Earth's nations remained united, incorporating the recovered alien technology into a new planetary defense system. Outposts were established throughout the solar system to provide early warning of any future threats. And in a secure medical facility, Greg Winters eventually opened his eyes. He was changed, his mind now containing not just Zorn's memories, but fragments of the entire Dominion consciousness. Through this connection, he gained access to the locations of other civilizations that had survived Dominion attacks. "We're not alone," were his first words upon waking. "And now we have allies to find." The Empire had targeted Earth, not knowing. They were about to awaken something they couldn't understand: the indomitable human spirit.